There's a kind of pressure no one prepares you for. It doesn't come from deadlines. It doesn't come from people yelling at you. It doesn't even come from failure. It comes from silence. From the moment you realize your life looks fine on the outside, but feels heavy on the inside. You wake up. You do what you're supposed to do. You handle responsibilities. You smile when needed. And yet, something feels off. Not broken. Not dramatic. Just quietly exhausting. Most people don't talk about this phase because there's nothing obvious to point at. No disaster. No big mistake. Just a growing feeling that your life is slowly being filled with things you never consciously chose. You didn't choose this routine. It just happened. You didn't choose this version of success. You just followed the steps that were given. And one day, usually at night, your mind asks a dangerous question. Is this really it? That question alone can shake you, because now you're stuck between two fears. The fear of staying where you are and slowly losing yourself, and the fear of changing everything without knowing what comes next. So you stay busy, you scroll, you distract yourself, you push the thought away. But silence has a way of catching up. Late at night, lights off, phone face down. That's when the pressure returns. Not loud, not aggressive, just a quiet weight on your chest. You start thinking about time, how fast it's moving, how everyone else seems ahead, how your younger self had dreams you barely recognize now. And suddenly, you feel guilty. Guilty for wanting more. Guilty for feeling unsatisfied. Guilty for questioning a life others would be grateful for. But here's what no one tells you. Feeling this pressure doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you're awake. You're noticing the gap between who you are and who you're slowly becoming. This pressure isn't a sign to panic. It's a signal. A signal that your values are shifting, that the old rules don't fit anymore, that something inside you wants honesty, not comfort. Let me be clear about something. This feeling you're experiencing, it's not weakness. It's not a character flaw. It's not evidence that something is wrong with you. It's your internal compass recalibrating. Think about it. When you were younger, your goals were simple. Maybe it was getting into a good school, landing that first job, reaching a certain salary, finding stability. And you did it. You checked those boxes. But somewhere along the way, the goalposts shifted. Or maybe you shifted. The things that motivated you at 22 don't resonate at 30. The lifestyle that felt aspirational 5 years ago now feels hollow. And nobody warned you about this part. Nobody told you that success can feel empty, that achieving what you thought you wanted can leave you more confused than before. Because when you finally arrive at the destination you spent years working toward, and it doesn't feel like you thought it would, what then? That's where the real pressure begins. It's not the pressure of climbing. It's the pressure of realizing you might be climbing the wrong mountain. And the scary part? You're already halfway up. You've invested time, energy, identity. You've told people about this path. You've built a life around it. Turning back feels impossible, but continuing forward feels dishonest. So you freeze. You stay in motion without moving forward. You keep busy without making progress. You maintain the appearance of momentum while feeling stuck. This is what I call the productive standstill. You're doing everything right on paper, showing up, putting in the work, meeting expectations. But internally, you're circling, waiting, hoping that if you just push through a little longer, the feeling will pass. It won't. Not on its own. Because this feeling isn't something to push through. It's something to listen to. Here's what's actually happening beneath the surface. Your mind is processing an uncomfortable truth. The story you've been living no longer matches the person you're becoming. You outgrew the narrative, but you're still playing the role. Maybe you chose a career because it was practical, and now you realize you value creativity more than security. Maybe you built a social circle around old versions of yourself, and now you feel like you're performing every time you're with them. Maybe you followed a timeline, graduate, marry, buy a house, have kids, and now you're questioning whether you actually wanted these things or just thought you were supposed to. This isn't about regret. It's about misalignment. And misalignment creates friction. Friction creates exhaustion. Exhaustion creates that quiet pressure you feel every night before sleep. Most people respond to this pressure in one of three ways. The first group distracts themselves. They throw themselves into work, into fitness, into relationships, into anything that keeps the mind occupied. They renovate the kitchen. They plan elaborate vacations. They start side projects they never finish. Because as long as they're busy, they don't have to sit with the discomfort. But distraction is temporary, and the pressure is patient. The second group tries to logic their way out. They make lists. They analyze. They search for the right answer, as if this is a problem that can be solved with enough information. They read self-help books. They listen to podcasts. They ask everyone around them for advice. But clarity doesn't come from more input. It comes from stillness. The third group, the smallest group, does something different. They stop running. They sit with the discomfort. They let the pressure speak. And that's where transformation begins. Sitting with discomfort doesn't mean wallowing. It doesn't mean giving up or falling into despair. It means creating space for honesty. It means asking yourself the questions you've been avoiding. Questions like, what do I actually want my days to feel like? What would I do if no one was watching? What parts of my life am I only maintaining because I'm afraid of disappointing people? What would I tell my younger self if they could see me now? If I knew I had 5 years left, would I change anything about how I'm living? These aren't easy questions. They're designed to be uncomfortable. Because comfort is what got you here. Comfort is staying in the relationship that's fine but not fulfilling. Comfort is keeping the job that pays well but drains your soul. Comfort is saying yes when you mean no because it's easier than dealing with conflict. But here's the truth about comfort. It's expensive. The price isn't money. It's time. It's energy. It's the slow erosion of your sense of self. Every day you choose comfort over truth. You trade a piece of your future for a quieter present. And eventually, the bill comes due. The pressure you're feeling? That's the bill arriving. Your inner self is asking for payment. It's saying, we can't keep living like this. And you have two choices. You can negotiate, try to buy more time, promise to deal with it later. Or you can pay attention, right now, while the cost is still manageable. Because here's what happens if you wait. The quiet pressure becomes chronic anxiety. The vague dissatisfaction becomes resentment. The small compromises compound into a life you don't recognize. One day, you'll wake up and realize you spent decades being someone you're not, living a life designed by default instead of by choice. And the worst part? You'll have no one to blame but yourself. Not because you failed, but because you never gave yourself permission to question what success actually means to you. So let's talk about what courage looks like in this phase. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. Courage here is quiet. It's admitting to yourself that you're unhappy, even when you can't explain why. It's saying, I don't know, instead of pretending you have it all figured out. It's disappointing people who expect you to stay the same. It's choosing uncertainty over a comfortable lie. Real courage in this moment looks like sitting in your car after work for 10 extra minutes, letting yourself feel whatever's there without immediately reaching for your phone. It looks like turning down invitations to things you don't actually want to do, even when saying no feels selfish. It looks like admitting that the goals you've been chasing don't excite you anymore, even though you've told everyone they matter. This kind of courage doesn't get celebrated. Nobody throws you a party for choosing self-awareness. But it's the most important kind. Because every other form of courage, starting a business, ending a relationship, moving across the country, starts here, with the willingness to be honest about what's true. Now, I want to address something important. If you're feeling this pressure, you might be worried that acting on it means blowing up your life. That being honest with yourself will lead to destruction, divorce, quitting your job, burning bridges. And yes, sometimes clarity does lead to big changes. But more often than not, it leads to small, crucial adjustments. It might mean setting boundaries at work instead of quitting. It might mean having an honest conversation with your partner instead of ending the relationship. It might mean reconnecting with an old hobby instead of starting a whole new career. The pressure isn't demanding that you destroy everything. It's asking you to realign. to bring your external life into harmony with your internal truth. And sometimes that happens quietly, through a series of small, brave choices that add up over time. Here's what I want you to understand. This phase, this uncomfortable, confusing, pressure-filled phase, is not a detour. It's the path. Every person who lives a life they're proud of has walked through this discomfort. Every person who creates something meaningful has sat with this tension. The difference between people who transform and people who stay stuck isn't talent. It isn't luck. It isn't resources. It's willingness. Willingness to feel uncomfortable. Willingness to not have all the answers. Willingness to let the old version of yourself die so a truer version can emerge. This is the work that matters most. And it's the work no one can do for you. Not your partner. Not your therapist. Not your parents or friends or mentors. Only you can decide to listen to that quiet pressure instead of numbing it. Only you can choose honesty over comfort. Only you can take the first step toward a life that feels true, even when you can't see where it leads. So if tonight you feel that weight on your chest, if you're lying in bed wondering why everything looks fine but feels wrong, know this. You're not broken. You're not failing. You're not behind. You're standing at the edge of something important. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is whether you're willing. Willing to sit with the discomfort. Willing to ask hard questions. Willing to let go of who you thought you were supposed to be in order to discover who you actually are. This is your invitation, not to have all the answers, not to make a dramatic change, but to start listening. The pressure isn't here to crush you. It's here to guide you, slowly, quietly, honestly, and if you let it, it will lead you somewhere truer than comfort ever could. Take your time, be patient with yourself, but don't wait forever, because the life you're meant to live is waiting on the other side of this honesty, and it's worth every uncomfortable moment it takes to get there. Thank you for being here, for listening, for having the courage to even consider these questions. That alone is the beginning.